Alright guys, so we're gonna go ahead and we're installing and configuring the delivery controllers in XenApp servers, our site. We have already taken care of our Citrix license server, so it's already installed over here. And to start, we're simply going to go ahead and mount the ISOs. On all three servers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start the installation on all of them, because we can come back and set up the domain controller or attach the domain. I apologize. I keep on saying domain controller. I meant to say delivery controller for on our XenApp servers. Alright, so for the first one, obviously we're setting up our delivery controller. For our delivery controller, we will need to go ahead and install the delivery controller, obviously, studio and directory. Now keep in mind that all the prerequisites will be installed through the Citrix installation itself, so you don't have to worry about it like how we had to do the installation of remote desktop services on a client license server. So all we have to do is click on delivery controller. I just want to see what the configuration is for this one. Fine. So we don't have to install a license server, because we have already done that in the first step. We're simply going to go ahead and install and take out the storefront as well, because we'll do that later. And this is the part that's going to take the longest, SQL. Next, we'll keep the default ports. Right, so while it's doing that, we're going to go to our XenApp servers and start the installation there as well. Now, before we do that, I'm going to go into the control panel. Internet options, advanced. Under security, I'm going to take out this check for publishers certificate revocation, and might as well take out a check for server as well. So apply, okay. Reason why I did that is because we are not giving, this is a lab environment, we're not giving internet access to our servers, so we want to make sure the snap-ins really are expedited in configuring it. Sorry, I'm really at a loss of words today. I don't know why, but nevertheless, we want to make sure that our snap-ins get configured really fast. So we just took out the revocation list. So we're going to do the same thing for all of the servers. Otherwise, if you would have noticed in the previous installations, we had, whenever we launched Studio or the Directory or even the storefront console, it just took too long for it to populate. Alright, so we already have a license server. Our delivery controller is being installed as we speak. So we just need to go ahead and install the VDA. Alright, so enable connections to a server machine. Next, Citrix receiver, fine. It's going to ask for a delivery controller, and we don't want to wait for our delivery controller to completely do its installation. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip this for now, and we're going to come back and do that later. Okay. Accept the default ports and install. So if you notice, it will install all the prerequisite components, including the Microsoft desktop experience and the remote desktop session hosted in 6. So in the previous versions it was the terminal servers. So we're going to do the same thing for our Citrix XenApp server number 2. And just this component. While it's doing that, I'm going to go into the control panel. Internet options. Okay, let me just finish it off with this. Advanced. We could do that later as well. It's not required that we actually do it now, but since we already had it. Alright, enable. Next. Now it's asking us, okay, it's just going forward by its own. So let's take it a step back. Yeah, okay, fine. Next. We'll do it later. Next. Next. Just have to press next all the way through until install. So this will take a little while, so we'll get back to it. Okay. So first it's gonna finish installing the SQL Server Express, and then other components, Studio, and on the director. And once it's all done, we're going to come back to it. Now keep in mind, for the XenApp servers, we have to sit here for a little while until that reboot request comes in. Okay. So once we follow the reboot request, then we can proceed further, and then we can let it do an it's not 100% unattended install, but nevertheless. If you want, you can start on the storefront as well in the meantime, but we'll keep that for the later video. So I'm going to pause it until I get that next pop-up. Alright folks, so this is the pop-up that I was talking about. The machine needs to be restarted before the installation can continue. This will happen on our XenApp servers. So simply go ahead and close this. The machine will restart, and then come back to the installation again. Okay, so it's installing the features, the remote desktop features right now. I'm not sure why our first server is taking so long. Ah, there you go. So our first server is ready to be rebooted as well. Now once I come back, you need to go ahead and log in once again, and then as soon as you do that, I will automatically start installing it again from wherever it left off from. Okay, so our second XenApp server is ready to be logged into. There you go. So it has started installing the Citrix components. It's done with the prerequisites. So, well, actually, it's still installing the other prerequisites for Microsoft. So we'll have to do the same thing on our first XenApp server as well. Alright class, so our XenApp server number 1 has completed its installation, so it says restart the machine, so we're simply going to go ahead and finish, and that will reboot the machine. And our second one is ready as well, so we'll do the same thing. Let's have a quick peek at what's going on with our delivery controller. So it looks like it's still going on with the SQL server. Let's just look at what resources we have allocated here. Okay, that's fine. So that should take another few minutes, and it will actually breeze through once the SQL server has been installed. We're going to log back into both of our servers. Now we don't need to install anything again on here. The only thing that we need to do is do the VDA setup. So for that we really don't need to give it 8 gigabytes of resources. I could actually plow those in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and quickly bring the server down. And there you go. I can get by giving 4 GB, and processors I can actually drop down to. So I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing for the second XenApp server as well, and then I'm going to increase RAM on our delivery controller. Alright guys, so the SQL Express has been installed, so it's just going to, as I said, breeze through it. So it's probably going to take another just 10 minutes, so add another 5 on top of that. Sometimes I've given it 16 GB for processors, so it might actually even finish in 10, but you never know. So I'm going to pause it and come back to you guys once that's been installed. Alright, beautiful. So it looks like it actually didn't even take more than 2 minutes, so that was pretty good. So now we're just going to go ahead and launch our studio and configure our first site. So I'm going to click on Deliver Applications, Site Name, NCI, Toronto. We're going to leave it as a fully configured production ready site. Next, it's going to create a SQL database. Press OK. Give it a minute. There you go. Now it's asking for the license server, and our license server is NCI Citrix license server 01, and the port number was 27,000. That's a default port. We're going to check our connection. Okay, that's taking way too long. Not sure why. Let's go back here. Log into the license server. Okay, so the firewall is off. Let's get back to our delivery controller. It's taking way too long. It should have already Yeah, no license server was found at this address, so I'm going to troubleshoot this and try to figure out what happened. Alright, so I figured out what the issue was. I've set up both the client license Citrix license server and our Citrix storefront at the same IP address. So obviously it's going to have issues. So we're just going to go back into our storefront, change the IP address here. So anytime you have any issues, any connectivity issues, obviously you're going to do the ping. Once you ping it, and if you get any errors, simply go into your DNS to ensure that you have the right IP addresses there. Right, so that's been corrected. So if we go into the license server now and try to ping, okay, it still gives us the same error. So what I'm going to do for the time being is I'm going to go ahead and shut down this server. That was our storefront. Okay, so let's give it another try. Again, the same issue. It's not going to 40. And is our delivery controller. Okay. So let's try it from here. If not, I might have to restart it. Okay, so it doesn't look like that. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and restart and see if that issue gets resolved. Alright, so after a quick reboot, it's working. So we are able to ping our delivery controller. I'm going to see if I'm able to ping our Citrix license server. Alright, beautiful. So we are able to. So I'm simply going to go back to our studio. Site name NCI Toronto. Okay. And NCI Citrix license server 01 port 27,000. There you go. That's how long it should take, but if it takes longer, then obviously there is some kind of a connectivity issue. So connect to this, confirm, connected to a trusted server, next. If we had a license, we would attach it over here, but we'll simply go ahead with a 30-day trial. And for now, we're just going to go no machine management, next, no, and we're going to select no. Finish. So this will go ahead and create our site. As I said, in previous versions it used to be called, well, anything 6.5 and below used to be called a farm. So now it's actually called a site. So our site is NCI Toronto. We have our delivery controller in there, and of course our 2 XenApp servers as per scenario number 7. So we're going to go ahead and proceed with installing those, or configuring those, the XenApp servers in a moment. Alright guys, so our first site has been configured, and if you look over here, Citrix Studio, NCI Toronto. Okay. Now, I recommend running these tests. It takes a minute or two, but if there's any issues or any errors, it will prompt you for those. So it's best that you always do a test site configuration. Alright, so it's almost done. again, depending on how much resources you have allocated, it may take longer or even less than it took me. Alright, so while this is doing that, I'm going to go ahead with our XenApp servers, because that takes a little bit longer. So we're going to go into our C drive, program files, Citrix, and XenDesktop VDA setup. Okay, and here we're going to go to XenDesktop VDA setup. You don't have to do this, you can just double click it or open it, but I always like to run it as an administrator. So old school habit. So if you notice, since we do not have that revocation checked off, it didn't take us that long. It was pretty fast. So here we'll have to do the customize virtual desktop agent settings. So all the tests are completed on our studio, on our delivery controller. So great. We can go ahead and even set up our machines and our desktops, but I'm going to come back and do that. Okay. So we're going to go to our first XenApp server, customize virtual delivery agent settings. Click on that. This will take a, well, there you go. So do it manually. And this is asking for not the domain controller, but the delivery controller, as it says over here. So our delivery controller address is ncicdc01.netsoft.com. Test the connection. It passed. Add it over here. Next. We're going to keep this at port 80. Okay, so please do not change this to any other port. We're going to keep it at port 80. That's the default port. Alright, so as it says, restart is required, so keep that in mind. Reconfigure. Once that has been done, it will ask you to restart the machine. Finish. While this first server is being set up, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing with our second server. Again, program files, Citrix, then desktop VDA setup. Scroll down, then desktop VDA setup. And do it manually, obviously. NCI CDC 01.netsoft.com. Test the connection. Passed. Add the server. Next. Leave it at port 80. Everything default. Reconfigure. Restart the machine. Alright. Now if it ever gives you any error, don't be disheartened. I mean, that's the only way you're going to learn, right? So troubleshoot it. Google's your best friend. Alright. And in our next video, we're going to go ahead and configure our storefront and then also deliver the applications as well. Alright, so I'm just going to go to CDC. We can click over here, set up machines for desktop and applications remote PC, which is basically machine catalog and delivery groups as well. So machine catalogs, or we can right click from machine catalog and do the same thing. It doesn't really make much of a difference, okay? So click on that, next, next. We're going to add the server. Events, find now. We're going to add both of our servers, both XenApps. We could have separated it, or we could just put it in one machine catalog. So I put it in one catalog. So catalog 1. Now we're simply going to go ahead and set up the delivery group. By the way, if you want, you can just do the test the catalog. And if there are any errors or any issues, it will just let you know over here. So since we don't have any applications whatsoever, it just says no applicable test could be found. Okay, close that, create the delivery group, and in this catalog we actually have two machines. Okay, you could go with one or you could go with both. So we're going to go with both of them. We're delivering applications, not the desktops. Now we simply go ahead and add the users. And for our test environment, we're simply picking up the domain users. These are all the applications. Now you could set up like one application or certain applications from one server, or both, or exact same applications from both of the servers. So I'm just gonna go with our calculator, and we're gonna go with command prompt. Hit next. We're gonna call this DG1 and finish. There you go. I just like to come back to delivery groups and like to see how many machines are registered. So 2, so I know it would actually work. And over here we have to add the storefront server. We have not set that up, so we're gonna go ahead and set that up in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care.